Hi everybody, it's Michael here with my video review of the Makerfarm 8-inch Prusa i3 with the newly installed Magma all-metal hot end. The Magma hot end is a relatively new product at Makerfarm. It's actually not a Makerfarm design that was designed by someone else, and there are other sources for it, but it's relatively new to Makerfarm's lineup. And when that became available separately as an add-on kit rather than one of the options when you go to buy a new kit, I was very excited by that. Those of you who've been following my channel may recall a video I made of a melted J-head where for some reason the plastic part of the J-head just melted and it just kind of curled over and became useless. So the idea of an all-metal hot end was very exciting to me. Presumably melting would be much less of an issue. Also, a lot of the higher temperature filament materials became available. Tallman nylon, polycarbonate, all kinds of other stuff that typically wants a higher temperature than typically you would use on a J-head, which has a maximum melt point of somewhere around 245 degrees Celsius, because of the materials that were used. So I was very excited. There were a couple little hiccups in assembling the Magma hot end. I'm going to just roll this fan up here so you can get a better view of it. Rather than using a heating resistor, the Magma hot end uses a heater cartridge. And as you can see, this is right here. The heater cartridge plugs in right there. I had a little problem initially. It didn't really fit into the Magma hot end. What I ended up doing was getting a 6mm drill bit and kind of deburring the hole that was drilled through the head, and then I was able to get the heater cartridge in okay. So that was the first little hiccup. Other than that, it went together really well. Just I'm going to point out a couple features of it. One, the Magma is a little bit shorter than the J-head, which actually is a nice thing in some respects because that gives you a little bit more build volume and allows you to build things that are a little bit or print things that are a little bit higher than you would with the longer hot end. It also has this aluminum mounting plate right here, which is just a lot more confidence inspiring than the laser cut wood one or the acrylic ones that typically come with the J-heads. Other than that, it went together fairly easily. It uses the same thermistor that the J-head uses, so there's no need to change the firmware or anything. Everything is all set up right there. It is recommended by both by Colin at Makerfarm and anybody who sells this this hot end, that you want to have a fan blowing over the cooling fins right here pretty much all the time. And in fact, Colin's instructions involve hooking the power release of the fan up to the pretty much to the same place where the power supply, or where the leads from the power supply go right into the Arduino board, so that as soon as you put power on the machine, the fan is going, and that makes a lot of sense. There were a couple of things I had a little trouble with right at the beginning. One was again, because the J-head is a little bit shorter, I had to change the mounting point for this fan mount right here. It's actually between the extruder block and the mount plate, and what that does is that ends up giving me a little bit of space, maybe about 5mm or so between the outlet at the bottom of the extruder block right here and then the entrance hole to the top of the hot end. So that requires a little bit of finesse to get the filament fit in there correctly. The next problem that I had was, now there are certainly some questions that you need to answer when you're switching between printing ABS and PLA. Those of you, again, who have followed my channel will know that this fan shroud right here, blowing across the cooling fins of the hot end, is pretty much a requirement for PLA. What will happen is as heat migrates up the filament with PLA, it will expand a little bit and get jammed at the top of the hot end, and then all of a sudden you have no extrusion. So you want to keep that filament cool right up until it gets to the hot part of the nozzle. So that's what this fan is for. What I have been doing also, though, when printing with ABS, is tilting it up just a little bit so that it blows right on the hot part of the nozzle. And what that does is that cools the extruded filament as soon as it hits either if in case of the first layer, hits the heated bed, or when it hits the layer below it, so that that minimizes the amount of shrinkage. And I found that is the way I've been able to get really accurate prints for things like interference fits, where you want to plug a bearing or something into the part and it fits just perfectly, and it's very close to the way that it is originally spec'd and designed. Problem with the Magma needing cooling all the time on the cooling fins is that with my particular setup, I just have the one position I can be in now, so I don't have the ability to cool the ABS as it extrudes. So those were some issues I had getting it set up. I was able to do a test print. I printed out the classic test cube right here, and I'll see if I can get that to somewhere where it can be focused. It was not the same kind of print that I was able to get with my very first ever test print with the J-head, which is also an ABS, which I was very happy with. It's very square. The corners are all very sharp. It's a nice flat surface on the sides with very even layering. And the one that I got out of the Magma, I hope you can see that there. There's a little bit of well, it's not even. It's not flat. First of all, for some reason it was over extruding on one side, and just a real rough, not very smooth, not very square cube. But I was okay with that because I thought, that's something that pretty much could be addressed in Slicer by adjusting some of the extrusion settings, the print speed, and especially the retraction settings. And then today, what I wanted to try and do is my daughter's birthday party is tomorrow, and we went on to Thingiverse, and she found some decorations that she wanted to have printed for her party. And because of the colors that she wanted, I was going to print these in PLA, and I thought this is a great way to test out how the Magma hot end does printing PLA. And this is really where I really started to become disappointed. The first thing I obviously needed to do was load up some PLA filament, and what I typically have done when switching filament, either between materials or just switching from one color of the same material to another color, is load up the extruder like you normally would, just plugging the filament into past the hob bolt and into the hot end. And then what I would typically do is either use the pronder face extrude function to extrude about 50 to 100 millimeters of material, and by that time the colors have thoroughly changed. And typically what I would do is, if I am switching materials, I would use the extrusion temperature, the lower extrusion temperature between the two materials. So for example, if I was switching between ABS and PLA, I would normally print PLA at 180 degrees. At 180 I would go ahead and extrude that, because the ABS will still extrude at 180, but it's not going to be print quality, but it will still come out. And naturally, what you don't want to do is overheat PLA, because you get that heat expansion problem. And also, when PLA overheats, it does leave some crystals and can leave some chunks in the extrusion path, and that's not something that you want to deal with if you don't have to. So in any case, I went to go switch between ABS and PLA. I ran the extrusion and could not for the life of me get more than about 10 millimeters of PLA to extrude. And I had started out at my normal operating temperature, which is 180 degrees for PLA, and this very same reel of PLA that I've been using with the J-head at 180 degrees, like I said, could not get more than about 10 millimeters of it to extrude, and then all of a sudden just would jam up to the point where the hob bolt was just carving a half moon shape in the side of the filament. So I tried a few things. I didn't want to go too much on the high end of temperature, just because I didn't want to have any of that PLA self-destruction melting action going on. But I did run it all the way down to as low as 160 degrees, thinking at least I can get this flowing and get it moving. But just no matter what I did, the PLA just jammed up in the top of the hot end, and no matter what I did, I could not get it to even extrude. So I couldn't even get, and that is with using the extrusion function on pronder face, and also just waiting until the motor was not attached and trying to turn the gear manually, and then going all the way down to the most primitive method I can think of, which is to peel the idler back and then just push through just with my hands. And no matter what I did, I could not get any of that couldn't get anything to come out. Took a look at the Reprap forums and discovered that this is not something that I invented or discovered. This seems to be a pretty common problem with printing PLA with not just the Magma hot end, but any all-metal hot end currently seems to have issues with the PLA jamming in it, and sometimes even ABS too. Finally, after running between 160 degrees and 185 degrees, and just not being able to get any of this material to come out of the hot end at all, you know, right now I'm at the point where I'm giving up, because my daughter's birthday party, like I said, is tomorrow, so I'm going to switch back into the J-head, where I know I can get good quality prints. So overall, I gotta say my experience with the Magma hot end, with ABS, I have a feeling like I could probably mess around with my slicer settings enough to where I am getting good quality prints, but it's going to take a lot more tweaking than the J-head did. And when it comes to PLA, as far as I can tell, I have no evidence that this thing can print PLA at all. I mean, I've seen some videos on YouTube where some people are able to get it to work, and I don't know if mine was has a manufacturing problem with it, or what, but I'm just thinking that if all I'm doing is changing the temperature between 160 and 185 degrees, and I'm manually trying to push filament through the hot end, that it seems like if I can't get it to come out at all, then something's wrong. You know, I can't think of you know, obviously there's no slicing settings involved. The only variable that there is temperature, and trying to feed the filament through by hand, and it's just not extruding. So I think something there is not quite right, and yeah, I would not recommend the Magma hot end at this time. It may be that in the future some all-metal hot ends will come along that are going to be a little higher quality and able to handle the materials a little bit better. Now, I've not tried any of the higher temperature materials. I've not tried. I do have some Tolman nylon that I haven't yet run through it, and I have not tried polycarbonate or any of those other things. And people may have better luck with those. But right now, for me, PLA is something that's very important for me to be able to print with, and it seems that right now the Magma hot end is not really willing to cooperate. So thank you very much for watching, and I'm very sorry to not be able to give a positive review, but I am overall generally just pretty much disappointed with the Magma hot end. Now, I'm not going to give up on it completely, but I am going to switch back to my J-head, and then when I have time and feel like a challenge, and probably when I have a couple more printers set up, I will go ahead and switch back to it and see if I can tweak it and get it to work. But for now, there's not much that I can really say to recommend it. So thank you very much for watching, and I'm sorry I don't have better news, and I appreciate any comments that you may have, and thanks for watching.